He shall preserve thy soul, even forevermore.
I cannot share my whole story with you. I can stand here for hours and tell you things that are unimaginable, but we don't have that much time. So I wrote a book. I am in the movie. You can get the book. It's called The Fifth Diamond on Amazon. And you can watch Netflix by Steven Spielberg. It's in around the world in 34 languages, so everybody can listen and learn. And the film shows you what hatred does. So I'm gonna try and tell as much as I can about my experience in the Holocaust. I'm going to start to tell you how old I was and where I was. So my name is Irene Z, and I am a Holocaust survivor. I grew up in a little town in the mountains, at that time Hungary, with a loving family and friends. Sorry, okay. Maybe I'll say. With a loving family and friends in this little town. And also with non-Jewish families and friends. As a little girl, I was always, sometimes and almost always, called very not nice names. And then I was also accused of killing their God. I did not understand why, because I was taught that God was for everyone's God. But as I grew older, I learned that that was an act of anti-Semitism and murder, which led to murder. At the age of 13, my family and I were taken to Auschwitz-Birkenau. There, my family was taken away from me. At the train station when we got off the cattle train, there was a man, and he took my family away from me. I begged him and cried and pleaded with him, please let me go with my family. But he just kicked me away from them. And so then I heard my mother call out to me, don't cry, I will comfort you later. That was the last time I heard my mother's voice. A few minutes later, I was behind electric wire fences, starting the day in agony and dehumanization, the loss of identity and dignity. Just a number, 61397. But I had hope. The first day, I decided to go look for my mother, because without my hair shaved and no clothes and no shoes, she will not recognize me. But when I got to the door, they asked me, where are you going? And when I told them, they pointed to the chimney. And they said, your mother is just about now coming out of that chimney. And if you don't go back to your bunk, all of you will go today. I was so scared. I didn't know why she was saying that about my mother. My mother was beautiful, and she never did anything wrong. Why would they say this about my mother? But I had no answers to my question. So I went up on my bunk and I went to sleep, tried to go to sleep, hoping that when I wake up, this madness will be gone. But I couldn't fall asleep because little children's cries from the outside were so sad. The next morning at roll call, I was selected by Dr. Joseph Mengele for his deadly experiments. He did not show pity, and I will never forget the pain on a rusty table that he experimented on me without anesthetics, and how he enjoyed watching me suffer. I never saw myself to be rid of him. But I never stopped forgetting who I was. And thank you, God, for that.
Amen.
Today, and for 77 years, I share my dreadful past worldwide with the present and the future generation, so they can learn from that portion of history of tolerance and mutual respect. The Holocaust is a very important thing in the history. We must never forget that it happened. I go on this journey called the March of the Living. I have been on 18 journeys, which is a very lucky number for us. I go with generations, with young people, most of them high school, from around the world. I march with them from Auschwitz to Birkenau on Yom HaShoah, which is about this time of the year. We retrace the steps of our families that died there. But why did I survive this horrible place after all these terrible things they have done to me? How did I get here? There was not a man, a woman, or child that was able to help me. So who helped me?
God Almighty.
God helped me. And He helped me, and I think He gave me a mission to do what I'm doing.
Oh, yes.
And that's why for 76 years, I have not spoken about the Holocaust or my experience in the Holocaust for 50 years after I was liberated. And people say, why? Why? First of all, I was only 16 years old when I came to this country. Who is going to believe this child such a nightmare? They're gonna put me in a straitjacket. So that was one of the reasons that I didn't. And then I also thought I didn't want our children to be exposed and know that such an evil existed among men. So that was the reason I did not share. But then Columbine happened. And when I saw what happened there, I started to think about maybe if I would have shared my past, maybe these children would value their lives a little better. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen until 1994 when Schindler's List came out. I said, if they show it, I must tell it. And that's when I was asked to go on the March of the Living. With the future generations, I want to imprint on their minds the importance of going so they can touch, smell, and feel proud of who they are and grateful for what they have. Because the SS always said to us, even if one of you will survive, nobody will believe you that this happened. So we were brainwashed with that. The world will not believe you. So I was committed to teach the future generation about the Holocaust so they can choose to be witness to the witness. So when all the survivors are gone and the neo-Nazis will say the Holocaust never happened, this generation will be able to say, it happened. I was there. And I would like to tell you some of the things that happened on the march. I don't know how much time I have, but when we are on a march, we go to places. When we are in Auschwitz, we go to a lot of places, but when we are in Auschwitz-Birkenau, that's where I was. So I go with them to the barrack where I lived, the bunk where I slept, the food that I ate that I didn't have, the revere where I was experimented by Mengele, and the gas chamber. I was in the gas chamber. I do not go into the gas chamber because I've been. But the children go in and they ask me, what should we do in there? I said, there is nothing for you to do except if you have a second, walk through fast because it's not very healthy. I mean, it's healthy, but it's not, it's very sad. But if you have a second, just put your head against the wall and keep walking. When they come back, I wait for them at the door when they come out. And when they come out, they come over crying, of course, to me, and they said, I have learned something in there that I have to tell you, you helped me do that. When I put my head to the wall, I heard voices. And I heard things. And I listened, I couldn't understand. But I learned how small Judaism is in there. And I knew that these children will never, ever forget that the Holocaust really happened. So I was in Auschwitz, in Birkenau, in Majdanek, in a labor camp, and on a death march. After all this, I escaped the death march. And I also want to tell you that I had befriended a friend during the experiments. So we were together most of the time. We were secretly our support, each other's and other people's. People that wanted to die, we helped them live. So on the death march, we escaped. We were close, it was a very dark night, we were close to the Czech border, and we just escaped. It was June 7, 1945, that I was liberated after hiding in the mountain by General Patton's 3rd Unit. And this forest was near the Czech border. I cannot find the words high enough to express my love, my feeling, and my thanks for these kind and caring and loving men. I wanted to hug them, but I was so dirty and covered with lice and sick, and I did not want to give it to them. But they didn't care, they hugged me anyway. They gave me clean shirts, and I took off the lousy, everything was full of lights. And then they put us in a Red Cross van. And I cannot tell you the feeling. There were real beds and sheets and blankets and pillows. That was a dream that I never thought that was going to go true. Then they gave us our food, our favorite food. It was very hard for them to get it because we were under siege. It was during the war. I mean, there were snipers all over. And my friend wanted scrambled eggs. And I said, I just want a little loaf of bread all to myself so I don't have to share it with 10 people. You never saw 200 gorgeous, tall, healthy men gathering little debris in the forest, making little fires because we couldn't have a big fire, we would have been discovered. They were scrambling eggs in their helmets for my friend. They didn't have any bread, and I had these brown boxes. And they opened them up and there were crackers coming out of there and these dark chunks of something. I didn't know what it was. It turned out to be chocolate. And I never had chocolate before, so I didn't care about the chocolate, but I was very happy with the crackers. And And so then we went to to sleep in this Red Cross bed, which was like the best hotel in the whole world. And when we walked in, we didn't think that that was for us. So we just sat on the floor and waited to see who was coming to sleep in these beds. But nobody came. So we decided to just sit on the bed. So we did. And then said, well, nobody's coming, I guess this is for us. So we were trying to go to sleep, and we were saying to each other, maybe we should celebrate first. I said, well, who do you want to celebrate? We don't have our parents, we don't have our siblings, we don't have our friends. I said, I think we just better go to sleep. So of course we cried ourselves to sleep. In the morning when I got up, she was still sleeping. And I couldn't wake her up. But the medic came in to tell us that we have to get ready to go because the snipers are closing in and it's not safe to be here, so we gotta go. I said, I can't wake her up. Would you please help her wake up because she's so tired, she can't wake up by herself. So he must have been the medic because I saw he gave her an injection. And I said, hurry up and wake her up, don't let her sleep so long. And he says, I can't wake her up. She is sleeping in a very beautiful place, and she is no longer hungry, and she is no longer sick. I said, what are you talking about? She was never sick. He said, she was very sick. She died in her sleep of a disease called typhus, and I can't help her. And so you must leave right now with us. But she said, first tell us where you want to bury her body. I says, I want her to be buried in the spot where you found me. And promise me that after the war, we will come back and take her to a real cemetery. And they did. And they took me with them, and they left me in a field hospital. Because they had to go to fight a war. And they didn't come back, but other soldiers came back after the war. I was better in the hospital, and we went back to the mountain. We went back to the spot where they found us, where her name was Saka, by the way. And she was buried, but we couldn't find her because the mountain was so destroyed from fighting. But she is in my heart all the time. And so, from there, they took me, I got better, so they put me in a displaced person camp, which was close by where the hospital, where this field hospital was, in Salzburg, Austria. And there, I met 40 children my age, waiting to go to Sweden to an orphanage. But while they were waiting, there was a letter that came from the United States to the organization, and they asked them to find me and asked me if I want to come to this country, to a new family in a new country. Well, I screamed so loud, they must have heard me all the way to New York. So I gave up my spot to another child to go to Sweden. And I waited 2 years to be processed to come to this wonderful, straight, free country and family. I felt freedom for the first time in my life. Today, I can tell you, I have 2 children, 5 grandchildren that light up my life. I will always be grateful for being here and witnessing that there is such a place in the world. And so I was very happy. I met more people that belonged to my family that came here in 1914 before I was even born. So that's why I didn't know them, but they knew of me. I will always be grateful for this gift of being able to come here. So I rebuilt my life. They wanted me to go to college, and I said, no, I'm going to go to work. I am going to build my future. I'm going to try and find out where I belong, because I couldn't find a place where I belonged. But I did. I joined B'nai Brit, BBYOs. I became president of the organization. I devoted my chapter to help the veterans in the veteran hospitals that were fighting in every war in the world. And I found out where I belong, and I still belong there. But today, it is sad for me to see that the world has not learned from past histories what hatred has done. And I watch people in 2022 behaving like savages. Nothing has been done to eradicate the cause of hatred. What could be the reason that we cannot find a tool to build bridges between people and avoid these disasters? Are we so blind that evil forces have overwhelmed us? It is crucial that we unite in the task of eradicating the most lethal element that provides fuel to process hatred. And they are prejudice, intolerance, and hate. Without all our technological devices, my generation has not been able to find a tool that will stop genocide. I can tell you so many incidents and stories about my life. I was only 13 and had no education, so that was my education. But we never have enough time. So my message to you is, don't hate, educate.